Hey everyone, Terry here. Today I thought we would talk a bit about the practical effects of the film, and in particular, one shot that I lovingly refer to as the punch. So if you've seen the film already, this sequence is the culmination of the sort of glitch that disrupts the consciousness transfer and sort of drives William a bit mad, which results in him lashing out and punching the wall, which causes the robot to whom he is somewhat connected and in control of at this point to also punch the wall, which in the red room happens to have a junction box right there. Robot punches the box, power goes out, cut to black, boom. The shot of the robot punching the box, as originally conceived, was much longer and far more dramatic. It was a fairly complicated practical effect, and it's sort of a shame that it didn't get used, but I think you'll agree that the bit that's in the film works a lot better. The idea was that I would punch the box and it would explode, basically, with debris and smoke and sparks and all kinds of cool stuff. So I used a fairly thin plastic container for the box. I believe it was a box of strawberries from the grocery store. I painted it, weathered it, added the little wires and electronic bits and bobs to kind of look electrical and important. Cut a hole in the wall about 3 inches square and then glued the box over top of that hole. I then filled the box with a mixture of baby powder for smoke and glitter because I thought it would catch the light in interesting ways, and black pepper for contrast and little bits of debris and other things. I had a really hard time guessing just how much of this stuff to put in, and I think I settled on filling it up about a third of the way, which, as you'll see in a minute here, was probably about twice as much as I actually should have put in. I then drilled another hole in the wall behind the box, just big enough for the end of a piece of plastic tubing to fit through. Stuck the tube in there, glued it shut, and then ran the tubing about 10 feet down around the set to the front, and then attached it to a trigger that then went over to an air compressor. So in my left hand is a trigger that when pressed will shoot a highly compressed stream of air into the box on the wall, which should blow everything out the front toward me. The only problem really left to figure out was the sparks. I wanted to really sell the idea that this was some sort of main electrical panel in the room, so sparks and some sort of arcing was really necessary, I thought. I really wanted to get this in camera too, as I had no idea how I would have pulled it off in post. The solution turned out to be a strobe light that I had used in the doorway window for some previous shots. I gaffer taped the strobe light over top of the big hole in the back and then set it to trigger via sound, and then just set the sensitivity really, really low so that only my punching the thing would set it off. Shot the whole thing at 96 frames for maximum drama and then held my breath and hoped for the best. I was only going to get one shot at this, and I knew that, so I had to punch the thing square on, which was hard enough as I couldn't see anything through that helmet, but also I had to make sure that while punching, I was hitting the trigger in the other hand at the same moment. And as you'll see, I miscalculated the timing a little bit. I should have hit the trigger slightly ahead of the punch, as it took a split second for the air to actually travel all the way through the hose and hit the box. Which ultimately made the air blast a little bit late, which is exaggerated even more by the fact that it's being shot at 96 frames. You can see how kind of overly dramatic the resulting blast really was. But I did get my sparks, and I got enough in the early moments of the shot that it just made more sense to cut it short and cut to black right there. I like the effect a lot. I think it's really cool, but ultimately the idea of using the entire shot in the film was a little bit much. It didn't need to be that dramatic. Anyway, that's a little bit about my favorite effect in the film, which as it happens is kind of barely in the film, but I thought it could be kind of interesting to take a look at what I initially had in mind and then compare that to what actually ended up in the film. As always, if you'd like to hear more, leave a comment or hit me up on Twitter and we'll talk. Okay? Take care, guys. Thanks.